Welcome back, everybody, to Culz Interviews. Today, we're going to delve back into the world of paranormal, which makes sense. It's that time of year, and if you guys stay up with the channel, you know we've been going that way. But we were introduced to Eric here thanks to a good friend, Mark Eddy. And I gotta say, I'm excited that he connected us because I've found a lot of really interesting videos, Eric, and I saw you did a book, so I will make sure to get it and review it on the channel. But how are you
Thank you.
doing today, Eric?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, I'm coming up on 28 days in a row of nonstop stuff, which I'm so happy about. I'm blessed about that, and it is the spooky season. So we've got premieres, we've got, I'm doing a lot of talks, and I just got back from the Mothman Festival, and a couple of weeks before that, I was speaking at the Exeter UFO Festival in New Hampshire. So I love it, man. Meeting so many great people, love the paranormal genre, hearing some incredible stories, and telling some incredible stories that you'll hear tonight too.
Yeah, no, how was the Mothman Festival? That's one we keep getting told about, but we have not been able to make it yet.
Oh man, well, it was my first time there, so it was amazing, man. I mean, I was trying to get into it for a few years, but it was the first time there, and my good friend Steve Ward put a good word in for us, and I was able to get down there. My team member Dominic Sattel was supposed to join me, but he couldn't make it, so I just went by myself. And it was incredible, man. I mean, there was 20,000 people there. I sold out of all my books. It was just awesome. It was just really great, like really electric atmosphere. It was awesome.
No, that's awesome. We've heard some good stuff. We're friends with Bill and Jackie Kuselis, who wrote the Bridging the Tragedy book, and yeah, they always talk about it. And so I saw some of their pictures, and I was like, I'm so jealous. Like it looks so good.
And I went over the Silver Bridge too, man. The
Oh, did you?
the Memorial Bridge there. So I
Mhm.
was like, oh my God, you have to go in over that bridge in order to get in there. So I was like, oh my God, here this is like, you've only heard about this and through history. And here I'm going over the actual bridge into Point Pleasant. It was wild.
Right. Yeah, no, I can definitely relate. We just recently did a ceremony for a historical marker, and when you're there, you're living the history, and it's so much different than what you think, and it just gives you so much just more input on like what you're reading and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, and you do a lot of interesting stuff. We'll have to have you back on for a musical one because
Oh
you
yeah.
do music as well. I saw you've played in the White House and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I mean that's the thing, guys. 31 years as a jazz musician, and I've pretty much have been doing that most of my life, but I was always a filmmaker, and always loved the paranormal from, being an only child, hearing, and I live here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So we've got a lot of really great history here, ties to the Underground Railroad, all kinds of really, ghost stories, all kinds of stuff. A lot of stuff my father told me of his accounts and his, stories. So, it was natural that in 2016, I was looking at a lot of these paranormal shows on TV, and being a filmmaker, I'm like, man, I could do that. The technology now is like such that you could literally like, get some video software and put a show together. Whereas before, back in the day when I was doing it, it was like VHS, it was like, cut and paste, it was film, but it was amazing now. So 2016, I started, and it was originally called Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, but we quickly changed it to Eric Mintel Investigates because we've been traveling all over the country, and doing all kinds of, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman, you name it, we've been doing it.
Yeah, no, and I can relate to the old school like tapes and stuff. Like when we started, that's what it was, and you're like, okay, how far? Oh, we got like 20 more minutes. We're good, we're good. And then you have to like put it
Yeah.
on the computer, and then slowly it took forever. So
Oh yeah. Editing in VHS was a nightmare, but it was, but now you pretty much could just drag and drop anything and make it happen. So it's, we're in a really good environment that way. So we're very, very lucky, and to be talking with you guys, in these kind of platforms, I'm lucky too, because, we're getting a chance, and I thank you for having me on the show because we're getting a chance to really get this word out because I always say this, we're in such a great environment to be able to speak so freely about this stuff. Whereas maybe 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't be able to talk about it as freely without some stigma attached to it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now it's pretty much like, hey, folks, the government's saying, hey, the UFOs you're seeing are real. We just don't know what they are. And people are coming forward. They're not afraid to come on camera and tell their story. So it's a really cool environment I think we're in. I've had a lot of witnesses, both UFOs, Dogman, Bigfoot, that I'm pretty good at discerning the truth from the BS. But when you're talking to these witnesses and their voices are cracking, they're getting nervous, they've got some like, it's something that's like profoundly affected them, that that's something real and that they can't explain. And, I look at it this way, at the end of the day, people are seeing something, you know, and experiencing something. And what that is, that's why we're out here trying to figure out what it is. And in our research, I feel like sometimes people are connected to these spirits or these things, UFOs or whatever, that they're able to see these things and connect with it. Whereas the average person, maybe whose antenna isn't really attuned to that, may not be seeing it. You could be standing there and you could be next to your friend, you're seeing a UFO, but he doesn't see it. So it's that kind of dynamic there. Or we were thinking it could be like maybe in family lines or something like that.
Mm.
So it's just the whole thing's fascinating to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're talking about earlier the kind of stigma that paranormal had. Even back in like trying to think what year we did this, probably 2010, we did an investigation in Castle Rock where this family, their kids had played with an Ouija board, and they would take us to the place, but they're like, we don't want to be on the camera, we don't want any of that. So they at least talked to us, but they were like, I don't want to be associated with that. And
Yeah.
now, like you look now, and people are like, oh yeah, we want to be part of the groups. Like it's crazy how much that's changed. It's great.
It's amazing, man. I mean, we did last year. We had a huge UFO flap here in Bucks County.
Okay.
So you guys remember all the reports that we were getting with the balloons being shot down over the
Mhm.
Yukon and all those things. So, I mean, there were also car-sized objects up there that they were shooting down. It was like, what's floating in the sky? It's like what's up there? And what's hovering that looks like a car? So we were getting a lot of really unbelievable reports here where people were seeing this low-flying, brightly lit object, silent, just hovering. And a gentleman contacted me and said, hey, I've got some really great video footage of this thing. It's been coming over my house now for the last like year and a half. Do you guys want to see it? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to see it. So we went up to his house. He lives literally right up the street from me. And I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. It was just like what they were describing. And again, a guy who's pretty prominent in the community, not a huge paranormal guy, but in other ways, business wise, not afraid to tell a story. And he even said that in the video. He's like, I have a reputation in the community, but I'm not afraid to talk about what we've encountered here. Also, his wife had a finger-sized point of light came right up to her face and then shot away. So, things there are some bizarre things that are happening all the time. And we're lucky enough now that people respect us that they're comfortable enough to tell us these stories. Whether, again, whether it's ghosts or Bigfoot or UFOs or dogman sightings, anything like that. People do call me though sometimes and say, can you guys help me? My house is haunted. Can you do something? And I don't do that. We are, I would say like we're a film company, and I don't do that. I would never go and do that in somebody's house. What I would do is refer them to somebody that could, maybe cleanse the house or something like that. But there have been rare occasions where people wanted us to come in and videotape. And that's another thing too. They're not afraid to talk about that either, because there are people that are having these encounters. So it's yeah, there's a lot of strange stuff going on, man.
Yeah, no, we've been in certain locations that I guess you wouldn't expect to have like people come forward. Like we were in Lincoln, New Mexico 2 years ago, two and a half, something like that. And yeah, people were just like openly talking about like these things flying around in the valley and stuff. And I was like, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's close to Roswell, but yeah, it's crazy like how just more open people are, which is great because that means we're hearing story more. And it kind of reminds me of at one point like tornado science. People are like, ah, there's not that many tornadoes. Well, it's just because people weren't out in the area where tornadoes were happening, and now be more and more people were witnessing it because they moved to those areas. So perhaps it's something like that with the paranormal.
Well, I think so too, and called boots on the ground investigating. I mean, that's the thing. We're out in the field and we're out there, almost sometimes putting ourselves in harm's way, to get this evidence, especially when we encountered the Beast of Bray Road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, which was that was in October of 2021. And I could tell you that story if you want, but man, it was just incredible. We were out in, I think it was October 2nd through the 4th of 2021. We went out and investigated the Beast of Bray Road. I had heard about this creature. I didn't really put too much into it, but for your listeners, I'm sure you know what it is. It's supposed to be a 6 to 7 foot tall, upright canine, dog man, werewolf type creature. I initially heard this and I heard about it, and I never really put too much into it. I never put too much faith into it, meaning like, I thought we were going to go out there, get a great story, talk to some really cool people, never thinking once that we'd ever encounter this thing. And the night of October 3rd, man, I'll never forget it because we were on the farm of a gentleman by the name of Lee Hample. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him or not. But if you get a chance to talk with him, he used to be a math teacher in Wakanda, Illinois school system. He's also a hay farmer and initially had no interest in the paranormal whatsoever. He bought this farm in 2011 and didn't start farming there until 2013. And that's when his neighbors said, "Oh, by the way, Lee, that's where the creature is on your property." And he was like, yeah, I know Wisconsin's the home of alcohol, but these guys were these guys, but no, these guys were serious. They were like, yeah, there's a creature that's on your property. And Lee's property, his farm, is only 2/10 of a mile from Bray Road. So again, not really thinking too much about it. We go out there. I mean, there's a lot more to this story, which people could see on my video. It's called The Beast of Bray Road Alive and Well. I'm just giving you like little short snippets here. But the night of the investigation, right before we went out there, we were in Lee's barn, and Lee had been showing us all of this footage and all this activity, hair samples, all kinds of different things, tracks that he's gotten on video, UFO lights going through the woods, all kinds of weird stuff. Um, so I had said to Lee, I guess it was around 8:30 on the 3rd of October, and I said, Lee, do you think we could go out and do a night investigation in the field back there? He goes, yeah, go ahead, but just really be careful, be careful. And I'm like, no problem. So we get out there, and I mean, it's a 35-acre hayfield. So if you guys could imagine this, it's a huge rectangle. So you've got corn on one side, corn on the other side, corn on this side, and on the right-hand side is an area which he calls the bait area, where he's been putting a lot of roadkill deer in there to lure this creature in. Well, earlier in the day, I baited that area with steak bones that we had the night before. And then all day I'm thinking to myself, was that a good or bad idea? Because because later on we get down there and everything's set. We had to take four-wheelers to get down there because it was about a half a mile walk to get down there. So it was me, my team member Dominic Sattel, who's also a spirit medium, which is completely out of his wheelhouse, and then Ellen Collins and her son Scott. So to make a long story short, we get out there. The first thing we see, we got off the four-wheelers. Dominic looks up and goes, "What the hell is that?" And here, a solid orb of light is going over the field, very slow, maybe about 1,000 feet up, if that. You could see other planes around it, but it's going over very slowly, and then it's starting to move up and get faster. And we're trying to figure out what the hell it is and saying, oh, there's a plane, but this is just a solid orb. And then with that, it does a 45-degree angle and blinks out, disappears. And then later on, we looked to see if it was a satellite or it was a space station, and it wasn't any of those things. So the second thing that happened, we're still trying to figure out what that is. Then we hear a howl in the distance, very faint. Then we hear another howl getting closer, and it's not coyotes. Dominic says to Ellen, "Are you hearing these howls?" And she goes, "Yeah, they're coming from over there." And with that, this third howl, it was like a man screaming in this field that we were in. It's low, guttural scream, growl, yell combination that didn't pitch. It was monotone. And we looked later, it wasn't a screech owl, it wasn't a fox, it was nothing like that. And we were like, the fear factor was there. It was like, what the hell? What are we hearing? But what got me was when Dominic says, can you to Scott, our camera guy, who was as solid as a rock when we heard this thing, he was just like, we all got jumped up. But then Dominic goes, shine the light over to the corn where we just heard that, where we heard this, the howl. So Scott shines it over there, and there, about 7 feet up in the corn, you see yellow eyes going like this in the corn. And you could see it all in my video. And I'm going to tell you flat out, we are truth-based investigating. We didn't see the full body of this thing. I'm not going to say that we did because we didn't, but we did see the eye shine, and we sure as hell heard it, um, which was unbelievable. I mean, and it changed my whole perspective on what's out there. And here's the thing: we had no protection either. We had a flashlight and a radio. That was it. So, and Lee, he told me, he goes, before we went out there, he goes, "Do you want to take the flare gun?" And I was like, "Nah, it's all right." And again, my stupidity of thinking that nothing would be out there. And if I would have taken that, man, we could have lit up the whole area to see what the hell it was. But it was crazy, man. And then the whole night, later on that night, the entire town of Elkhorn lost power.
Oh wow.
It was
Hmm.
just a bizarre night, man. But I mean, I haven't even told you like half the things though. I mean, earlier in the day, Scott is going over the drone into that field where we were doing some reconnaissance to figure out where Lee's been getting all this activity and the sightings. So we go over toward that bait area, and Scott's got to wear virtual reality glasses, for these drones. It's a really high-end drone. We're going over there, and in that particular area, we disappeared off of his screen on his lenses there. He lifted it up, we're still there, but somehow digitally we disappeared in that area. So something was messing with that because we were also getting that night, we were having a hard time connecting the electronics. Like, thank God our cameras were working, but the GoPro wasn't connecting. So we were having some weird stuff happen. Right after we heard those howls too, there was a really weird mist that came up from the field. So, and that was messing with the electronics as well. But I'll tell you, it was just a crazy night. And then we did a follow-up on that in 6 months later in April of 2022. We didn't encounter at that time, and I'm glad we didn't, not only for safety purposes, but I'm glad we didn't because if we did, people would say, "Oh, these guys are faking it." They saw it again, but we didn't get it. But what we did have was a town hall meeting that we set up at the Elkhorn Library, the Memorial Library there, and over 140 people showed up to tell their story of seeing this creature, and they all described the same thing. When it's on two legs, it looks like it's gliding, and when it's on all fours, it's really, really fast. So that was the takeaway from that investigation. And then one other thing, we went during that follow-up, all the corn was down at that point. So we went over to the field where we heard those howls the 6 months earlier, and we had our hotel room keys in our pockets. So we were in that field, and when we went back to the hotel, they were demagnetized. So it was just some strange stuff out there, man. When I first saw, and I try to go in skeptically. I'm right away, I'm like, what's really going on here? In any of our investigations, you'll see me try to debunk what people are talking about, what we're doing here. But I don't have those feelings like Dominic would have, like, going in and sensing spirits and things like that. What I do is I meet with the owners of restaurants, bed and breakfast, or wherever, and get all of the history, then talk, and then any of the paranormal history, and keep it all to myself until Dominic gets on site. And if he goes maybe 95, 96%, 98% to what has been going on there, then I'll kind of tell him what's going on. And then it's funny because then there's another story that unfolds and another story. So it's amazing, man. I mean, it's just like that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, and you always find it when you least expect it. Because Sam can attest to this. We had a really weird like time thing happen on one of our trips to Roswell, where we
Really?
lost. Yeah, Sam, do you want to tell that one? Because you're good at talking about that one.
Sure, I can. Can you hear
What's
me?
up, Sam?
How's it going?
Good, man. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, so this was 2 years ago, back in 22. Um, we were heading down to Roswell, and our GPS usually takes us through Vaughn, and so we were going
Fort
down.
Sumner.
Huh?
It usually takes us through Fort Sumner, but we went through Vaughn.
Oh, I mean, I've figured we've gone Vaughn every other time, so I just assume it always takes us through Vaughn. But this trip, we were heading down Vaughn, and like I was just like watching a video on my phone, just because it's a long drive, and then I just like felt like us passing through like this like bubble almost.
Mm,
Felt like we passed through like a bubble or like a force field is like another great example of it. Like it felt like we passed through something, and I like kind of like looked up off to the side, and I was just like, huh, that was weird.
wow.
And I thought nothing of it, went back to watching my video, and then like every once in a while I would just like look up at the GPS because I was in the back, our buddy Matt was in the front, and Keegan was driving. And I was just like looking up at the time, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Like, um, it like was like going up in time on like when we would arrive. Like it was going just like up and up and up.
Mm.
And Matt ended up mentioning something. He was just like, is it just me, or does it feel like we've been on this road forever and it's just like increasing on how long we are gonna take to get there?
Oh, wow.
And
Oh, that's freaky.
yeah. Wait.
Yeah, no, and I was happy because, of course, as a driver, you're looking at the GPS, and usually to get to Roswell from here, 7, maybe 8 hours at most, depending on how much you
Mhm.
stop. And we were going, and I was like, man, it just feels like forever.
Mm.
And then finally Matt said it, and I was like, oh, thank God I'm not crazy, you know? And it ended up taking over 10 hours.
My
Mhm.
God. So you had an extra 2 hours.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
lost 2 hours for no reason, but it got
Wow.
weirder. So there's no signal in that area. We make
Mhm.
it to
Oh,
Lincoln. We get to there's a brewery just so we could get drinks and some food. And I look, we got messages from the Airbnb host in Hondo who says that, can we call her? So I call her, and it turned out the caretaker had died in the front lawn and the body was still there. And I was like, well, maybe that's why we lost time. Like it was the
oh my
weirdest coincidence. I
God.
don't know what to explain without.
No,
Wow.
it was very weird.
Holy moly.
And
That
that
is
was in
wild. That
23,
sound
not 22.
that sounds like a that sounds like an episode from the X-Files when Mully and Mulder and Scully were heading down to Roswell or down in that area, and they went through some kind of time warp, and and Mulder wound up switching bodies with one of the other FBI agents.
That's
So
great,
that's so hey, look, you know what? There is always a little bit of truth to the folklore, man.
right?
I don't doubt it. I mean, our last trip, because like that was in 23. Our last trip this year, like we didn't experience that type of thing, but there was like a bunch of like dust devils and like a tornado with like no clouds. It
Yeah, it
was
was like
kind of
every 20 feet there was a dust devil. Like at one point you could see like six. And I was like,
Wow.
what is going on here? Like,
And
what
that
is
was
with
coming,
this red?
and that was through Roswell?
This was on
mm,
through Vaughn. So you can take either Fort Sumner or Vaughn from Colorado. And I always tell people take Fort Sumner. It says it's longer, but it's a lot less time.
And you're in Colorado now?
Yeah,
Okay. What part, Colorado?
Castle Rock.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
My uncle lives in Colorado Springs.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
oh,
we go
okay.
down there quite a bit. We did some Nikola
Yes, we
Tesla
do.
stuff on there.
Oh, cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still 8 hours from Colorado. Wow, that's pretty well. Yeah, it's pretty far. I
Mhm.
guess that's Colorado's a huge state, man. I
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
remember I remember driving from Pennsylvania to Colorado. Like I drove straight 31 hours, man. 12 hours of that was through Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
Corn blue sky, 12 hours.
Yeah. So when we went
Whoa.
to Missouri, because my buddy lives in Kansas, and I was like, all right, we're gonna get there. I'm gonna drive during the night, and it made it much more pleasant of a drive
Yeah.
because then you're not missing. You're not just like, oh, there's a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's wild though, man. Did you guys ever try to like go? under hypnosis or anything to try to find out if anything happened during that time?
No, no, I
No,
guess we've
I'm
never,
curious though.
yeah, we've never thought about that.
Interesting. Yeah, there's
Hmm.
a really great book if you get a chance to read it. It's called Missing Time by Bud Hopkins. And I had been interviewing and talking while he was up at the Exeter UFO Festival, Peter Robbins. He worked closely with Bud Hopkins with a lot of these cases of people who had these missing times episodes. They had like they would miss an hour, 2 hours, and whereas trip would normally take 8 hours, then they're getting there 10 hours or 12 hours later. So it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. We're also trying to delve into like the alien abduction phenomena, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on about that right now. And I mean, within the UFO circles, not being talked about, of course, in the media, but it's on the fringes there. But again, we're talking about it. That's a good thing, or at least we're having the discussion. What about we did an investigation of Bigfoot, and all of these cryptids, when I was looking at some of the Bigfoot shows, I was like, I would always have to chuckle because I saw these guys whooping and hollering for Bigfoot, and I'm like, is that what they really sound like? So we did this investigation a week after we got back from Elkhorn of Bigfoot in the New Jersey Pine Barrens because there was a lot of reports of these something was going into neighborhoods in the Wharton State Forest area, going in, taking the garbage out of these neighborhoods and going back into the woods. And people were describing these things as maybe 4 or 5 foot tall, hairy beings on two legs. And for all intents and purposes, it was like juvenile Bigfoot, that people were seeing. So we went down and did this investigation. I'll tell you, man, we're in the woods. It was me, Dominic, another Bigfoot researcher, Eric Spinner, great researcher, and his buddy Art Mack. We're sitting at base camp, and Eric's wife Heather was there as well. And Eric's daughter was shooting video for us too, because we documented everything. And we're sitting at base camp, and Art and Dominic are talking, and all of a sudden we hear a whoop coming from the back. And I was like, "Did you guys hear that?" And Eric had high-powered microphones going. So Heather, Eric's wife, goes to answer it back, and she's getting whoops back from whatever's out there. And here we are. We're like 5 miles into the Pine Barrens. And if you guys are familiar with the Pine Barrens, it's thousands and thousands of acres of dense, dense forest. So, and where we were, there's no houses, there's nobody down there because you can't build anything. The iron pyrite in the soil, it's like sand. It's like trying to build a house on sand. Um, so we had some really, really crazy activity, man. We kept seeing red pinpoints of light. So again, it was like it changed my whole perspective on what's out there. So I don't discern anything as far as like, what people are seeing, because we've experienced it, ghosts, all kinds of weird stuff, man. And I am more skeptical with this ghost situation because, again, looking at it, trying to figure out what it is, trying to debunk it. But again, having said that, and having captured what we've captured on video, shadow figures, orbs, all kinds of weird stuff, disembodied voices, there's something there. I just, can't explain.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah, we always try to go in with an open mind. Even if we don't believe in the cryptid, we just try to give that possibility that something's there and just go from. But yeah, when we go in investigation, we have three teams. So one team goes in to kind of find the haunting, see what it is. Another team tries to go in to debunk the haunting and show what, it could be. And the third team and doesn't even know what's going on. They're just going in there kind of as the baseline.
Ah, that's
So that's
good.
how we do it. Yeah.
That's good.
Hmm.
That's good. And I don't know what you guys do, but we don't use REM pods. We don't use like spirit boxes or anything like that. We're just using Dominic and maybe a magnetometer and EVP. That's it. Because if anybody's going to tune in on something, it's either Dominic or another spirit psychic medium we use, Julie Krause, and they've been amazing, man. I mean, we were on an investigation, doing a ghost investigation, and a woman, I mean, in this 1749 farmhouse, she got bum rushed by the spirit and literally had a meltdown on camera. And I had said, "Man, Beth, do you want to have that on camera like that?" She's like, "Well, if that's how it happened, we've got to have that on there." So, you know, I'm so glad, and I love working with forward-thinking people, man. It's so great. And I wrote a new book which chronicles all of our investigations from, most of our most important investigations from 2016 on. And this month for October, we've got a ton of new videos going to be released pretty soon as well. But my new book is Casebook Investigations by Eric Mintel Investigates, and it's available on Amazon.com.
Sweet.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure to pick up a copy and review it because we do reviews on here too. So for
Cool.
Halloween season, it would make sense to read
There
it.
it is.
Yeah, there we go.
There it
Awesome.
is. Stories, encounters, and otherworldly contact. Seriously, otherworldly, man. It's crazy.
Right.
And
Well,
you know what the crazy thing was at the Mothman Festival? The night before the Mothman Festival, there was a fireball that went over Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and exploded like right above Virginia. Go
Oh,
wow.
check it out. It's on. It made the news and everything, man. People thought it was thunder, but it was this fireball that just. So we said, "A Mothman's here."
It's a sign.
So, yeah, exactly.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely be checking that out. And
You want to talk about where they could find me?
yeah,
And I mean, you guys could find my YouTube channel is Eric Mintel Investigates right on YouTube. My website is ericmintelinvestigates.org. And you can find me on Facebook at Eric Mintel Investigates and also on Instagram, Eric Mintel Investigates, and my usual Eric Mintel on Facebook as well. But yeah, we've got a lot of videos coming out, a lot of things that we're doing. I'm going to be speaking a lot of different places this month. And as a matter of fact, I don't know when this is coming out, but on Thursday, we're heading up to Connecticut for a premiere up there of a video that we had done at a place called the Old Lime Inn, which has a lot of crazy activity. And it's also a jazz club. So my jazz quartets also perform there several times. So it's really cool. They have a place called the Side Door Jazz Club. And so it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. And we've got a lot of cool premieres coming up this month with a new series we're doing for the Vampa Museum in Doylestown, Pennsylvania called Paranormal Pickers, which is basically like a play on American Pickers, but with haunted objects in a haunted vampire museum, by the way, which we've also got some crazy activity in, which you guys will see when I release those videos, man. It was, you can't write this stuff, man. It just happens. It's unbelievable.
yeah, no, I'm excited.
I'll tell you, man, you guys know the documentary Missing 411, the UFO connection?
hmm
Yeah,
It's a great documentary. I mean,
absolutely.
some of the stories there, man, are and his evidence and just kind of like how he connects the dots is really cool. And that's out, sort of in that area, up in your area. So I think there's areas around the country of like, and around the world really, of all of this like high strangeness, and those certain energy lines and things like that. So that's why I think Lee's property in Elkhorn has got that kind of weird energy. You guys might have experienced it going out, toward Roswell, so those kind of areas are all over the country. Um, so anyway, so yeah, just I appreciate you having me on here, and people want to buy my book again. It's on Amazon.com, and you could see it's Eric Mintel Casebook Investigations. But we pretty much I wrote about a lot of the cases that we went on that we really had no explanation for, but we were really scratching our heads around what really happened. So I wrote about a lot of local venues in our area here in Bucks County, but also wrote about the Beast of Bray Road, the Pine Barrens Bigfoot. Now we did a follow-up on Bigfoot in 2020, actually just last year, just a little over a year ago in 2023. And we went back to that area at the Wharton State Forest. Now, prior to that, July of last year or July of that year, they had wildfires down there. So if we were sitting in the area that we were sitting in, we would have been on fire because that's where the wildfires were, right where we were. And when we got back there, you could see the trees were kind of charred and whatnot. But we were sitting there, and again, going back over, the evidence and things like that. And now Art, one of the researchers, is going through some cancer treatments now. So he's got to take, and to look at him, you wouldn't think anything's wrong with him, but he's got to take medications. And we're sitting at base camp, and Art goes, guys, I don't know if it's the medications I'm taking or what, but my heart is really racing right now. As he says that, we hear a branch crack behind us. We whip around with the camera and we see a branch just doing one of these things. And then for 2 seconds, I saw two yellow eyes about 7 feet up, and then they disappeared. And then we could hear something going back into the swamp area. Now, the Pine Barrens is supposed to be the Jersey Devil, right? But I always thought that the Jersey Devil was a misidentification of Bigfoot. But, the Jersey Devil has always been either a winged horse or some descriptions have been as small as a turkey or as big as a medium-sized dog. So there were always different descriptions. Um, so we went over there to check it out, and man, you could see it we did another video called On the Watch for Squatch Part 2, and you could see that the branch was moving there, and we kept hearing all kinds of weird stuff that night. And the guys were telling us that me and Dominic were bringing them good luck because they've been down there and they haven't gotten anything. And I always blame it on Dominic because he's like ramping all the spiritual energy up there all the time. So, so we've had some really interesting cases, out in the field that way, even like at a restaurant, catching orbs and all kinds of weird stuff. We captured a shadow in this mirror that was in this attic of a restaurant in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. The owner says to me, whatever you do, don't touch the mirror. There was a paranormal group that was in here. They turned that mirror around, and there was all kinds of weird poltergeist activity that happened. I'm like, all right, no problem. I'm not going to touch the mirror. Well, everybody else, all my friends are like, you should have touched the mirror. You should have turned it around. But we didn't. But I put a static camera up there on the mirror, and we let it go. We went downstairs, and we're doing the investigation downstairs. Came back to look at the footage, and there was a shadow that was coming up from the mirror from the bottom all the way, and it just kept creeping up and down. It was weird, and there was no animals up there. I made sure of that, and nobody was up there. It was only the three of us, and so we just had this on the static. So things like that, sometimes you just can't explain, what the heck it is. So that's why I love it. That's why we're going to continue to be out in the field and and try to be a little bit more a little bit more better protected. And like I said, we're investigating now a haunted vampire museum, which is absolutely incredible, man. It's if you guys ever got out this way into Pennsylvania, go to Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and we'll all go together. We'll go and check it out.
Okay.
It's called the Vampa Museum. And man, he's got over 700 vampire killing sets in there from like the 17 and 1800s. I'm saying to myself, what was going on back then to have so many of these things, you know?
Right.
And again, you have to raise an eyebrow and say, when there's a little bit of truth to that folklore. Maybe there is something more there than meets the eye. So, that's and we experienced some really, really weird stuff in this museum. And so much so that we got growled at in the museum from something very, very strange in this weird doll room. And the only reason I say this is because and why I didn't do this before. When I listened to those the howls on the Beast of Bray Road video, I never listened to them on headphones. For whatever reason, I just never listened to them on the headphones. So just a couple of months ago, I put headphones on. And here on that second howl that we heard, right before that, you could hear a growl happening behind us, which eerily sounded just like the growl that we heard in this museum. So
Oh.
it was very, very strange. Um, so with that being said, Dominic will never go back in this museum again because he was the one that got growled at. He said that something actually came out and tried to touch him. And then 2 weeks later, guys, just about 2 weeks ago, I'm doing a book signing at the Vampa Museum outside. Somebody comes outside, a mother and daughter were in there videotaping at that doll room, and they're talking to this. There's a 5 foot Burmese doll that's in there, and it's got real hair. they're talking to this thing, and all of a sudden they hear the same thing. They hear this weird growl, and they caught it on video.
Oh
So
wow.
it confirmed what we heard.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it was strange. So like all that stuff happens all the time. So I would encourage people to go over check out Eric Mintel Investigates on the YouTube channel. I've got over 100 videos and a whole bunch of interviews and stuff, but there's a lot of on-site investigations, which some stuff we can't explain. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it all, we've been diving into that the last few days getting ready, and there's a lot of cool stuff on there. And I saw you did an interview with our buddy Wally, so that was good
Oh
too.
yeah, Wally, very cool
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, so
which is he's amazing to me. He was a reverend,
mhm,
and had a UFO experience that completely changed his whole religious outlook.
Hmm.
mhm.
So it was pretty wild. Yeah. So, and there you go. You have a guy like that that's coming forward, just, putting everything on the line and saying, hey, there is something going on here that's beyond us.
Hmm.
Yeah, and his is really interesting because it's not fantastical. He was just out, looked up, and he saw it, and then he didn't even
Yep.
know if it zoomed away or if it just, cloaked. And yeah, that one's interesting. My buddy Alan grew up on the reservation and right outside of Phoenix and saw the Phoenix lights.
Oh my God.
And so that's a video we
Awesome.
have on our channel talking the Phoenix lights. But it's like you said, there it's happening, and maybe just because people are in the know more now or they're looking up more now, people are seeing more stuff.
I think it's getting more energy
Hmm.
to it because people are now taking this more seriously. And I don't think it's going to be a big, people are worried about, chaos happening and all this kind of stuff. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if anything, it hasn't been, well, I mean, if you if you think about the alien abduction phenomena, it hasn't been malevolent. Um, I think they're here kind of observing what we're doing. And they're
Hmm.
kind of smart. They don't want to interact with us. I wouldn't want to interact with us either. You
Nope.
know? But yeah, I mean, just the possibilities alone are fantastic, man. So, with that, we'll keep on keeping on, right?
Hmm.
Right. Hey, that's all we can do is get out there and try to learn more, and that's what life is about, is figuring out more stuff.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's so much out there. So, yeah, well, I wish you guys a lot of luck, man. Be safe out there.
Yeah,
You
you as
too.
well. We haven't run into anything like you yet, so sounds like yeah, it sounds like you're doing a little bit more dangerous stuff. But yeah, we'll definitely be in contact more, and we'll have to have you back on, and
Absolutely, man, for
especially
sure.
once we get into your book more and talk some more of those stories. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
not
you
a
for
problem.
taking the time out of your day and joining us. It means a lot.
Anytime, man. Anytime. I'll
Sweet.
have you guys on my show, man. We all have the paranormal community is a small community, man. It's a small community with the guys that are actually doing good work.
Right,
Hmm.
So
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So let's just stay in touch
Build a
and
good network, yeah.
exactly, exactly. So solid,
But
guys.
it's
Thank you so
far
much.
better than the UFO community because
Oh
they're
Oh
on
yeah.
another level.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing too. I like to work with good people that are like doing good research and being positive and stuff like that. I heard about a lot of infighting and stuff. I just can't deal with that.
yeah, that's why we become a lot more selective now with who we
Yeah.
bring on the show, because
Good.
some of it, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, you say to yourselves, what did we stumble into?
I know. I was like, man, I gotta edit that out because they're taking shots at them, and then that slander, and I don't
Oh
want to
yeah,
be liable.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it is fun to interview them just to like see that like
Yeah,
perspective.
yep.
I mean, can't use a lot of the footage, but it's always interesting to
but at
see
least we
where
did it.
like
Yeah.
where they go with their thoughts and just being like,
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm having a huge Paracon here in March of 2025, March 8th, right here. It's the second annual Bucks County Paracon. So we're having Dave Schrader is going to be speaking from the Holzer Files. I've also got Charles Hall from the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident.
Oh,
He was the guy that was the real time telling everybody what was going on that night on that little recorder. So he's speaking, and I've got Peter Robbins is speaking. So you talk about infighting. Peter Robbins and Charles Halt just did not get along at all. But they buried the hatch. They buried the hatchet and said, "Look, let's just work together on this instead of against each other." And now it's more information now is coming to light of this incident. So it's really cool that when you have people that can work together on that kind of stuff is very cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, very. Well, we got to get you out to Roswell to speak at the festival. Like you would do so
Yeah.
good there. We met Travis Walton and Donald Schmidt there, so
Oh yeah.
and
Um,
you'd be good.
Don Schmidt, man, I interviewed him, and Travis is phenomenal, man. Just, I mean,
Mhm.
here's a guy that hasn't wavered from his story in 49 years.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, it's amazing.
he's so down to earth too. Like when we
Yeah, he
talked to
is.
him,
Yep.
he actually approached us because we have this giant, like 4 foot long dinosaur we carry around, mainly because we do it on Instagram because it's kind of fun and it's a fun way to teach people history.
I love
And
it.
so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And so he was like, "Can I take a picture for my grandson?" I was like, "Yeah, can we take a picture of you with it for our?"
That's great,
And
man.
so that's how I got
That's
talking with
awesome.
him.
Yeah, I would
Hmm.
love to get out there, man. That sounds so much fun.
It is.
It'll
It's a
happen.
blast.
We'll make it happen, man. And then we'll be hanging out. We'll do some like live stuff and
Yeah,
we'll, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
yeah, for sure. No, we'll
Absolutely.
definitely be in contact though. We'll have you back on here soon.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, and have a great
Thank
rest of your
you.
day. And we'll be in contact. And hey, keep on searching the good way. That's for sure.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we will, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
So once again, Sam and I want to say thank you to Eric for joining us on this awesome episode of Culz Interviews. Make sure to go to the description below and check out all the links. We'll include links to the channels, the Instagrams, as well as a link where you can find his book. But until next time, guys, for more Culz Interviews, click that link to your left. For more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, what was your favorite part of this interview? And have you read Eric Mintel's book? Tell us in the comments below.